So, how are things in southeastern Alberta these days? Well, we're going to chat about it today with our guest, Justin Wright, who is the new MLA for the Medicine Hat Cypress constituency. Welcome to Bridge City News, Justin. Thanks for being with us today.
Well, thanks so much for a great welcome. Anytime I can get on and talk about the great things in the charming constituency of Cypress Medicine Hat, I always look for an opportunity to talk about it. So,
Yeah, it's funny. I mentioned that you're new, but really, it's been almost a year now. It was since last
yeah,
May. So, what, about 10 months?
yeah, give or take 10
All
months.
right.
It's been quite the learning experience.
I bet. Okay, so why don't we begin with the ongoing issue of affordability and inflation? So, your constituency is fairly dependent on the oil and gas industry, and the carbon tax continues to increase, which impacts so many areas of the economy. So, what kinds of feedback are you getting from people in your riding?
Well, the most common piece is they're just looking for it to end. And
Yeah.
one of the first things that we did when we got in was pass a government motion requesting that Ottawa remove it from our home heating oils as a start. It's unfortunate that we couldn't get a unanimous vote on that. There was our opposition that did not vote in favor of that. But carbon tax is affecting everyday Albertans in everyday ways, and it continues to pile on. And I look at the cost when we talk about even just utility bills, the just exorbitant amount of cost that goes into that. It's an opportunity where if we really pulled that off as a country, if we stopped having that carbon tax, you would see our inflation and affordability crisis take a really big chunk out of what's plaguing everyday Albertans.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, we're all feeling it, aren't we? 100%. And of course, the ability to purchase a home continues to be out of the reach for many Albertans. That's something else we've been talking about. So, we do need to see an increase in the supply of affordable homes somehow, don't we? So, any thoughts on changes needed to make that a reality?
Well, we have, I think, the right minister in charge of that profile with Minister Nixon, and we're already seeing positive changes to the market from a policy perspective. I'm just going to give a few stats and changes that we've seen here. So we've seen the most housing starts in January of 2024 since 2015. So that's really positive, good news. As well as we're seeing a 48% housing increase on starts since January 2023. So we're seeing a positive trend moving in the right direction to free up housing for our everyday Albertans, right? And these are really key metrics that show us that we're on the right trajectory and that we're going to keep pushing down this path to ensure that we have housing in line with the needs of Albertans. As Alberta continues to be a destination both for immigration internationally as well as domestically, it's going to continue to be a need that we need to go after. And policies in place and red tape reduction have really begun to show the fruit of those initiatives, and I'm really pleased to see the uptick in the number of home starts that we've seen already, and look forward to continuing this path.
Okay, let's touch base on the drought conditions that we've been experiencing over the last number of years in southern Alberta. Justin, you're part of the Alberta Drought Committee. So, what is being done to ensure that the ag sector pulls through this and that our municipalities have proper water supplies?
Yeah, one of my colleagues from Tabor Warner likes to use the saying of whiskey is for drinking and water's for fighting. And right now, that rings pretty true across Southeast Alberta and really the whole province. As part of the Water Advisory Committee, Minister Schultz has put together a large group or a large variety of backgrounds. So we have got industry representative, we've got Indigenous communities represented, we've got agri-food, we've got municipalities, we've got egg producers, you name it. They're irrigators. I missed irrigators, can't forget them.
No.
You kind of hit on it. It's really important. It's affecting every day. So it's been a absolutely remarkable opportunity to take the voice of the grassroots with this water advisory committee, present it to the minister, present it to the Ministry of Environment and Protected Areas, to be able to really shape what policy would look like going forward. And the minister's already put in some remarkable programs like Water Smart, and they're continuing to evaluate what that looks like over the coming seasons, because there's going to be a lot of impact as to what crops our egg producers are going to be putting in the ground, determined by the amount of water that's available, as well as looking at some of the different avenues, such as regulations around dugouts, regulations around on-water storage, are all topics of conversation that have been had part of the Water Advisory Committee. But ultimately the decisions fall right where they should, which is with the EPA ministry and Minister Schultz. They'll make the ultimate decisions as to what is best, and we do our best to get the voices of different industries, municipalities, Indigenous communities, and really roll them up to ensure that we've got the correct information in a timely manner to help the minister and her team make the right call as part of the drought response team.
Okay. Justin, your constituency extends all the way down to the U.S. border. Highway 3 is going to be twinned over the next few years, finally. So what about Highway 41 south? I'm told that it needs to be widened. Are there any plans to do that?
You know what? I appreciate you asking that question. Minister Dreeshen was just in the riding a few weeks ago and made an announcement that we are in the planning stages, as well as the partway to the engineering planning for a Highway 3 widening, or Highway 41 widening, in conjunction with the Highway 3 announcement. So what that's going to look like is approximately 52 kilometers from Highway 1. It ends up just going past Elkwater and Cypress Hills Provincial Park, where we are going to be having widening going on down that way, as well as 14 kilometers north of Highway 1 along Highway 41 between the 41 and 41A. That's really going to add to a lot of safety measures and concerns that have been going on down that way. Many of my constituents have had near misses, serious near misses on Highway 41, including my family. It's been something that's been very near and dear to me. I'm going to be continuing to focus on this because I think it's just absolutely vitally important for both of our safety of our everyday constituents that are driving that road, going home, going to their ranches, but also for our tourism sector in the southeast corner. Elkwater and Cypress Hills provide a wealth of economic investment when it comes to tourism and people traveling down that road with RVs and boats and jet skis and all those great recreational pieces. If we can't do it in a safe manner, that's going to really impact what we see from a tourism perspective. And for myself, I sit on on a committee called PNWAR. It's the Pacific Northwest Economic Region. I'm one of the delegates. And we talk a lot about corridors, and I view Highway 41 very much as a very important corridor for trade because it has the potential to connect the U.S. with a direct north-south route, potentially all the way up to Fort McMurray, Cold Lake, Bonnyville area, and definitely the Oyen area where we're also seeing a lot of oil and gas development still going on.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's great news. Safety first. Absolutely. Okay. So switching gears here, how is the aerospace and defense industry doing in Medicine Hat?
You know what? I don't want to use the word booming because I'm cautiously optimistic that very soon we'll be able to use that wording. But we are seeing such a massive uptick in regards to new starts going on in our region, specifically in aviation, aerospace, and defense. And I've been kind of floating the idea of trying to get an AAD corridor. Stretching from Medicine Hat to Edmonton. There's a lot of tech developers working in the aerospace realm in Edmonton, but there's a lot of rocket design, a lot of radar design going on in Medicine Hat, as well as drones. We have a great advantage with our foremost aerial drone range, and that allows for out of sight flying of drones. And we are the only location in Western Canada that has one of those. So it's providing a really key advantage that we can focus on to have this be one of those industries that could potentially backfill the gap that was left from the 2008 recession when we saw the vast majority of oil and gas pull out of the area. So this gives us an opportunity to have great paying jobs, high level of competency, and really take and birth something that hasn't really been in Western Canada, which is a aviation, aerospace, and defense industry. Often they set up and this gives us a brand new industry that we can focus on. And I am so proud that we've had so many of these new startups pick Medicine Hats as being their choice location to develop the great and amazing new technologies that are available out there.
Now, I understand that there's demand from some of these industries to see some upgrades to the Wild Horse U.S. border crossing.
Yeah, there's been a large push. This has been ongoing for a number of years, and I really appreciate the premier's tenacity on this. Her and the governor from Montana actually wrote a joint letter asking both federal governments to explore this. We need a second commercial port in Alberta. Right now, Coots is the only avenue, and I hear pretty regularly that if we have manufacturers trying to get their parts and goods to market in the eastern side of the US, they're often having to backtrack approximately 3 hours to Coots to come back across if they don't want to go through Saskatchewan, just based upon timing. So if we can get the Wild Horse crossing, even a 16-hour crossing joint location, similar to what we would see in Coots, as well as commercial, it's going to give us the great opportunity to get those goods to market. But also, when I look at last year's disaster, not what was it? It was a state of agricultural disaster that the Cypress County had declared. Getting feed up to Alberta was a big challenge for a lot of ag producers because they weren't able to cross at Coots. Or sorry, they weren't able to cross at Wild Horse. They had to drive to Coots,
Right.
and that added an exponential amount of cost to getting that feed up there. Where now it didn't become viable for many of them. And when we look, a lot of our manufacturers are saying that by going through Coots or going through Saskatchewan, it's adding up to 14% to their transportation costs. So they're looking at that as to how we can advocate to make sure that we're being responsible for this economic corridor, which is Highway 41, which is your main way from our area in the Medicine Hat region all the way down into the States, taking you just out by Havre. And we're seeing that the Americans have already started making investments in their infrastructure on that side of the border. So we're continuing to evaluate and push for much the same thing.
Wow. Okay. Now, Justin, I believe that you're the provincial liaison with the military. So
Yeah.
can you update us on where things are with the Suffield military base just outside Medicine Hat there?
Yeah, so with that, I've been in fairly regular contact with Lieutenant Colonel Anderchuk. They're continuing to evaluate the situation. You know, the British Battis folks, there is still some stationed there. They're evaluating what the future looks like for them. But I have also spoken with Brigadier General Graham. He has expressed his commitment that CFB Suffield will be one of the jewels, remain one of the jewels of Canadian 3rd Division. And as we are continuing to keep our ear to the ground, we're very hopeful and optimistic for a very positive turn of events for CFB Suffield, as it's very important to our economic area from a perspective of, you know, new people coming in, you know, constant trade over. I look at a number of years ago when the British soldiers would do training exercises, the economic impact that brought to the community. As well as, you know, we've got a really rich history of service down in our area. You know, I look at the South Alberta Light Horse, which is often referred to as Medicine Hat's Regiment. It's a very important, rich history of really care and compassion to our servicemen and women that have been through this area in all of the great conflicts. So we're cautiously optimistic for what the future holds, but also in regards to what the future can bring in regards to a evolution of what goes on there.
Right. Now, you mentioned the British soldiers. Is there concern over the downsizing of the UK military presence there and how that could affect the economy?
There's always going to be concern when you see a large group of folks exit the area. However, I think with the current instability over in Europe, we'll say, I think that's a nice way of putting it. I completely understand why they're looking to position most of their troops much closer to home, especially their armor, just given the rapid response that may be needed should things escalate.
Well, Justin, it looks like we're about out of time here, but thanks so much for being with us today. Appreciate having you on.
No worries. Always would gladly be back. Thank you.
All right. Justin Wright is the MLA for the Medicine Hat, Cypress constituency in Alberta.